So I'm with Tom Bulman. Tom,
Yeah.
just tell us a little bit about the work you've been doing at the YMCA. What's been happening over the last 5 weeks, is it, or 6 weeks?
Yeah, 6-week course.
If you look to me just here. This
Yeah,
is it. 1,
okay.
2, 3, go.
Yeah. So we've been running a 6-week course for the first time with YMCA residents, so young, homeless, jobless people. And we've been putting on the career workout, which is what we do in mainstream schools, where we bring in lots of guests and they just have short conversations with each one. We also put alongside that action learning sets, which was quite an innovation on our part, and one-to-one coaching. And so it's been a combination of the 3 different activities.
You use this phrase action learning sets. Just unpack that a little bit. What is an action learning set, Tom?
Yeah, an action learning set is where a group meets regularly. So for us it was going to be 3 weeks running, and each time each member of the group presents an issue that's blocking them, in this case to do with getting a job. And so they present an issue, and those in the group then would ask them open questions about it, being very careful not to give advice or tell their own stories. And the individual at the end of a round of maybe 15 minutes of doing that would resolve a couple of action points they're going to take between now and next week, and then someone else in the group takes their turn of presenting their issue. So we ran that for 3 weeks with mixed results. First week was pretty good. We had a group that was quite small, there was just 5 in there, and they seemed very responsive to one another. The second week we had a group with some of those in it, but some others who hadn't been there, and it was much more chaotic and harder to get the discipline going, because it is a tough thing to do. It's a very disciplined process. And then the final week we focused on just 1 or 2 individuals, I think just 1 individual, and gave a lot of attention to him. And he responded very well to that. It was very open, and some of the questions that came out were really open and powerful as well. So mixed results.
Tom, that's about action learning set. But what about the whole course? What's been the highlights for you? What do you think has worked well?
I think what's worked best is getting the residents here to experience meeting people that they haven't met before in these short conversations that we do with this career workout model. And they've shown that once they're eye to eye with people they don't know, generally, because they have to be in that conversation, they're quite accountable for it. They do, despite having anxiety issues, despite having depression perhaps, despite not having done it before, not having met that many people in an eye to eye, a really accountable conversation, they've actually done very well with it. And we've had quite a lot of positive feedback from people saying, well, I was really nervous at first, and this has really helped me to be more confident talking to people I don't know, which obviously is something you need to have if you're going to proceed to a job.
Yeah. And Tom, we know that this has been a very challenging client group who face lots of problems and lots of barriers to employment, and invariably there'll be things that didn't work very well. If you're honest, what really would you have to remodel or have to rethink through if you were going to do it again?
I think this course required quite a lot of discipline, and I think we assumed that by meeting different people from the world of work, the individual, whoever they were, whatever difficulties they'd had in their life, would automatically become more confident in their own self-discipline and start to exercise that. What we found, in fact, was that because some of the issues that the young people face, there are so many barriers to them actually being as disciplined as was required by the course. And whenever we tried to impose the discipline, it started feeling just like school for them. And for some of them, given that probably all of them have had bad experiences at school, for some of them that was just too much, and then it was hard for them to not just keep the discipline but even keep showing up. So I think in a way the biggest challenge was the changing group we had. So it was hard to come alongside those that were finding it hard to be disciplined, because they might not be there next week, or they might be there the following week, but there'd be someone else there the following week. So we aimed to start with 12. I think we started with 14 or 15. We ended up working with 21 altogether, and there were resource implications for that. And the biggest issue really being that without continuity, without our being able to develop that trust in a continuous line, it was very hard to build up the self-discipline that was required.
Tom, what advice would you give to somebody else running a course with these type of clients, particularly in relation to the roll-on, roll-off aspect of people coming at different times?
Yeah. If you're going to have different clients coming in and going out, then the activity that you're offering needs to be very similar each week and enable people to come in and come out so that it's just valuable in its own right. It's very easy to understand, so a newcomer who wasn't there last week can quickly see what's going on, quickly see the value in it, and crucially not need to have been there last time in order to benefit from this time.
And secondly, what would you say in terms of this challenge around formal training, because it has to be structured, but not too schooly? How do you, what's worked well? I noticed you said earlier about taking something off-site to an employer. That could be a huge journey for that person and very, very significant. How can you be more informal or personalised in this type of structured course?
Yeah, I think the number one thing about personalisation is to find the time and space for that person and not have that interrupted by other interests or other individuals. So the most effective part of the course in many ways was taking an individual to meet with someone from the world of work who they had asked to go and see. So one individual wanted to look at being a tattoo artist. So taking them to see a tattoo artist gave them a sense not just of value that they wanted to see the tattoo artist, but also trust in the person who took them there and made arrangements for that. We had similar with somebody wanted a job in McDonald's, went to speak to the manager of McDonald's. That afternoon, the young person filled in an application form and was asked to an interview. We had somebody want to meet a plasterer, so taking them to see a plasterer and have a cup of tea with the plasterer helped the young person feel this is valuable because I want to see a plasterer, but also I also trust the people who are organising this course because they're doing what I want them to do, crucially with me alone rather than simultaneously having to do this with others.
Yeah, brilliant. That personalised learning, the caring, the authentic relationships and building that trust is really, really important. But then Tom, one final thing really in terms of just how do you structure a course when you have to evaluate and monitor it, even just getting people to attend a course like this is such a win, if you like. What would you say in terms of the challenges of evaluating and monitoring this and the form filling that you mentioned? It does cause a barrier to that interpersonal relationships, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a risk with funded courses that if the funder requires certain paperwork, which is understandable why they want that, but what doesn't always get understood is the cost of investing in that paperwork at the start with the individual who really wants a trusting relationship. And when the relationship starts on paper, so let's sit down, before we do anything else, can you fill in this individual learning plan? Without the trust being there to start with, the young person's already starting to think a few things like, this is not my agenda, this is someone else's. It's got a lot of words on the page. In many cases, they don't really want to interact with the written word. And a sense that, well, I've been told to come here, I've been told I've got to give some information about myself. I don't even know this person yet. It doesn't start things on the right step. And really what we have to do is find a way to get the individual into trust as soon as possible.
Brilliant.